Hello, hello. Welcome back to Shoe and Show, the footwear industry's podcast. My name is Christy Horan. I am FDRA's Media and Marketing Coordinator, and I'm excited to share that this episode is a little different today. I was inspired by Spotify's 2025 Wrapped that came out last week, and mine was all Taylor Swift. There's no surprise there. So as we wrap up 2025 for Shoe and Show, I want to take a look back at highlights from Shoe's Footwear Leadership Series powered by Ortholite. In this special 8-part series, as you may remember, we sat down with the top executives from the biggest footwear brands to explore their journeys, leadership philosophies, and the culture shaping their organizations. These were some of my favorite episodes with the biggest takeaways. These conversations offer a behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to lead in the world of footwear. If you would like to listen to the full episodes, please visit shoeleaders.com, or you can watch on YouTube at shoetube.org. In the meantime, please enjoy the Footwear Leadership Series highlights.
On today's show, we have Todd Krinsky, who is the president and CEO of Reebok. And Todd, as you come into Shoe and Show and kind of break some bread with us, the cool thing about your shoe story and your journey is that you've been at Reebok nearly 33 years. So welcome to Shoe and Show. And let's just talk about the last 33 years. What have you been up to?
Thanks, Matt. Andy, great to be here. It's funny. I mean, I have been here 33 years, but my career actually started when I was 16 at Foot Locker. And I think that's where I kind of fell in love with the business, was the retail floor, the shoe wall, and the environment of, interacting with customers and selling. That's how my whole kind of world started. That kind of experience back when I was younger is kind of what's driven a lot of how I look at the business today. It's all about retail, and it's all about the customer and the shoe wall and the experience of selling. And I try to really drive that with the teams today, making sure we're always very consumer focused. But yeah, the 33 years has been amazing. I mean, a lot of people know my story, but I actually, while I was working at Foot Locker, I was able to kind of work my way into Reebok in the mailroom. And I delivered mail for about 14 months, which wasn't really well received by my family after a college education. But I had a passion for the business, and I stuck with it. And yeah, so this is back in the day, though, Matt. This is back when you had an actual people were getting mail.
Right? Do you have that cart you're pushing around and delivering?
I had a cart. Andy referenced the pop culture Drake song of "Star from the Bottom," but there was also a movie, "Secret of My Success," with Michael J. Fox that people reference with me sometimes, which is very similar, And so basically, I knew I couldn't be in the mailroom forever financially, and so what I was doing was I was taking the mail, and instead of putting it in all the executives' mail slots, I was delivering it to their offices, and I was introducing myself, and I was networking because time was tight. And I got a little reprimanded by that from the mailroom manager, who said, "That's not how we do things. We put things in boxes and we keep moving." And then I graduated to a second idea, which was I put a coupon in every executive's mailbox that said I would work for free for 30 days, try me out, give me a real job. And although they couldn't really take me up on that, it did raise some awareness of me, and I networked, and I eventually ended up getting an associate development manager job. So I was working on the engineering side of building footwear. And that was my first gig, and I did that for a few years. So it was interesting because I was actually making shoes during the day and then working at Foot Locker and selling at night. It was an interesting kind of dynamic. And again, had great passion and love for the business at an early age. And then I got tapped on the shoulder, and I was young and single, and was like, "Hey, would you move to Busan, Korea?" Which at the time was still one of the major, sourcing parts of the world for footwear, and where some of the greatest shoe manufacturers are and talent is. And I moved to Busan and lived there for 3 years and just really learned the sourcing and the craftsmanship as footwear.
Ask you about leadership regarding people. So you've worked obviously in the U.S. North America market, led teams there. You've led teams in China and Asia. You led teams in Europe. And I was on a metro one day, and I'm so used to government speak, there's all these acronyms and there's, all these different things. And I look over and I see a guy who is in the symphony orchestra reading sheet music. And I just thought, oh my God, that's a completely different language I have no idea about. Right. So that the communication and crossover of these different cultures in your career, how have you been able to communicate well with people and engaged and motivate and lead them? What are some tips and ideas? Maybe what's your leadership style?
Yeah. I mean, leadership style evolves over the years because if you have a level of self-awareness, which is really the only way to be successful, is you keep evolving with what the needs of the team that you get the opportunity to lead need from you. And as I moved around, especially cross-culturally, that first few years that I moved to China was a bit of just an awakening of being like, okay, I have to adapt. This is about behavioral modification to be effective in the environment that I'm in today, not about the success in a different environment that got me to get the opportunity to get the role. So I think, the baseline answer of what you're asking is this constant self-awareness about how I'm being received in any room that I'm in. Am I being effective, right? Nothing says that when you start a new company, you do get a host of new acronyms and no one hands you like a Rosetta Stone to figure it out.
Hopefully not sheet music. Hopefully not, unless you can read the sheet music, then that's fine. But
I can read a little music, but not to that level. No. No one hands you the Rosetta Stone. So I become between Europe and, being American and grounded in North America in terms of who I am. Nomenclature is so important. And so one of the key elements of leadership is to listen in those first, few months of acclimation to be like, what words is everyone coding around, and making sure that if I want to change the words, which as a leader, you consciously have to like redefine some words just so it feels like a new day. So people don't default to maybe the things that are no longer working. I'm just very conscious about language. And I spent a lot of time with my peer group on the executive team because there's a lot of new of us, right? Well, Kris has changed up our executive team. We're all figuring out language with each other. And so I think languaging is one of the most important elements of, getting a high level vision through the whole organization. And, my hope would be you could ask anyone on the team below me, down to an amazing young talent who has their first role out of college or design school, and they would use the same words as Kris. I mean, that is the goal of our company right now. And that's the culture of this make every day better, which is kind of our mantra and our value system that we've unrolled to the organization.
Johnston Murphy is just seen as a premium brand. It's one that when I was a little kid growing up in North Carolina, Virginia, my mom aspired for me to wear Johnston Murphy to church and does whatever else. And now we have this super casual kind of society, but you guys have pivoted. You have some really great kind of casual hybrid dress shoes.
Yep.
Walk us through that process. How important is agility with a heritage brand, with a consumer that's constantly kind of changing its mind?
Yeah, well, I'll end with the last thing you said, and that's a consumer that's constantly changing, right? You can fall in love with your history and the DNA of the brand, and so much of that is worth protecting. But if you don't move with the consumer, you're just going to be gone. And if you think about, like, this is the longest continually operated footwear company in the United States, right? So there's very much a long view in around these halls on this business, and we want to stay relevant and we want to keep moving forward. And I think the most important thing we do is listen to our consumer, and they let us know where we need to go, right? And so the things that are in the DNA, like we're hugely committed to quality products. We're hugely committed to quality service. Those are old tenets and old ideas, but they transfer across categories, right? So whether it's a dress shoe or a sneaker, you still want to be delivering great quality and great comfort and great innovation and premium materials, delivered with great service by great partners. And so those things don't change. So you hold on to the best of what you have been and what's got you to the dance, and then you continue to evolve based on what your consumer needs. It is so true that this idea of diversifying the Johnston & Murphy brand relative to product, that really has been the general strategy, even pre-pandemic. We talk a lot about diversification and really through three lenses. The first one is product, right? We don't want to be reliant on one category. Men's dress shoes have been in decline for 20 years. That's not a new idea. That's not just a COVID thing, right? It's been that way for a long time. So we really worked hard on diversification, but first through shoes. We today sell flip-flops to formal, so it's a really broad range. We have an amazing apparel business, and we've added additional categories as well. And then we think about diversification relative to consumer. We don't want to be reliant on just one consumer. Our reach today is really broad. I mean, we are 25 to 85 in terms of age range, and we're really, really blessed with a broad multi-generational consumer base. And the last way we think about diversification is really distribution, and I think more and more and more, that's one of the things that's changed the most, not just online, but all the places that you can buy product. And we're really kind of in the mindset that We just need to show up wherever our customer wants to shop. So I'm sort of channel agnostic. If we get it in our own direct to consumer channels, great. If we have success and acquire customers through our amazing wholesale partners, that's great. I'm happy to go wherever our consumer wants us to be.
I think where we are in this time period with what's happening in the economy and what we need to do as an organization to really drive that is pulling everybody together. And I'm a player coach type of leader. I'm not like, I'm going to build this and you go do it. Like, I'm going to roll up my sleeves with you. And everybody, has an equal seat around the table. Like, we half joke, and in my office, I took out the square table and put in a round table because I hate square table. Like, round table, I just like the aesthetic of it. But then there's no like head of the table, like everybody's around that table. So for me, that's the style and the culture that I want. I'm not a huge fan of hierarchy. It exists for a reason, and I get it. And of course, there's certain reasons that exists. But I believe any idea can come from anywhere. And if there's a subject matter, I want the person who knows the information on that subject, not because your title says you should be in that meeting. So I'm just really trying to get everybody to roll up their sleeves and have that, everybody to have that player coach type mentality. I'm lucky. I feel like in stepping into this role is a really, really hard role. I'm not going to lie. But stepping into it, I think because I had been here and I know so many people, that I have such great support of my teammates and my colleagues, that's made it a little bit easier for sure.
I love that symbolic round table versus the square. My family of five, we like to have dinner at a round table, but
Same.
You can see the faces, you can communicate, you can fellowship and collaborate. So I love that. And then it's symbolic that you made that change. And it speaks to your servant leadership, and that you're not above anything because you're there in the trenches to help get the job done well. Yep. That really speaks to me, Tara. Now, you mentioned it's a hard role. Are there 2 or 3 things top of mind right now? And we don't have to say the T word necessarily, but are there things that are making it more difficult? And maybe those difficulties are creating opportunities that you're realizing at this moment, or you see down the road will be opportunities for you?
Yeah. I mean, the dirty T word, the tariff word, that's a tough one. Just navigating these economic times for sure. But if even say we put that aside for a second, the changing landscape has really, really made it, I mean, to me, exciting, but challenging for brands like PUMA, because there's so many new brands in the space. Like the brands I talk about in the competitive set and what's out there right now.
You want to still be that entrepreneur, right? And the more kind of corporate structure you put on something can kind of dampen that down. So walk us through that fine balance between entrepreneurial, but also structured so you can perform well and your employees feel like they have that structure underneath them that they need.
It's a great question, because prior to coming to a private company, I spent the first part of my career working for corporate America. And so I was working here at BBC for 20 years, I always had that question. Where on that line should the company be? Where can you be most successful? Corporations that are really large have a tough time being flexible because, rules, regulations, policies, and things like that. Small privately held companies have a tough time being too flexible sometimes, and it becomes favoritism or unfair, or, and communication falters. They don't have process. So I spent a lot of years really thinking about just that. What do I feel is the fine balance? We remain a very aggressive company. It's Seth's personality, my partner. It's also my personality as well. And I think even though we're able to maintain that family feel, I think we've kind of moved closer to larger company focused strategy type. And as part of that, we've had to communicate more. Town hall meetings with our people. I think they really appreciate knowing, nobody can deny that the past 5 years have been some of the most turbulent years in our supply chain history. And just having constant communication and a willingness to be honest with our employees. It's tough to have a town hall meeting when you have a lot of bad news and it looks like a really tough storm is coming. But you got to have those discussions with them. And I think they appreciate being treated like adults. They appreciate hearing from it firsthand from Seth and myself and the senior leadership team. And it becomes genuine. It becomes real. They become part of what we're doing, and they understand. And I couldn't be more proud of my organization from top to bottom and how they've handled all the things that we've been through. And I'm excited about where we are today.
You're developing your leadership skills on the fly. And a lot of us do. As we've been in the industry, we start to think through, okay, this works, this doesn't work. I try to motivate my team this way and it went over like a lead balloon, or I spoke to this person this way and it really, really encouraged them. Talk to how are you doing those things and developing leadership skills, particularly as you drink from a fire hose. It just feels like, it sounds like, and looks like from an outsider that things are rocking and rolling, while at the same time that can bring its own stress. So talk to us about how you're navigating all the chaos in a positive way.
I'd say everything one step at a time. And I've made so many mistakes. Oh my God. It's crazy to think in 5 years, the number of mistakes and learning points that I've been able to make. But I think in terms of running a startup is all I can speak about, because that's all I know. And you're managing, and on your team have folks of all different levels. I have people that are 20 years older than I am with far more experience. And I have people just out of college and a high school intern who wants experience. Like, we have people all over the map with different levels of experience and different communication styles. So I think the key that what's worked at Moolah, what's worked for me, certainly wouldn't work for everyone. But I think it's just about finding sense of style and who you are and expressing that, because I'm very intense and I'm also very caring. So I think the two can be true. It's like we all care so much about this mission and what we're building. And so being honest and upfront with your team, I think, is most important. And that goes across all skill levels. Everyone appreciates honesty and straightforwardness. When you're running a startup, you really don't have time to be anything but that. But I would say it just takes making mistakes and understanding, hey, this is what works, this is what doesn't. And then also balancing that with, this is what feels natural to me. Because I think ultimately the more I've found is like, you can't fake it. If it's not a fit and you have to do something differently outside of yourself, that's going to end up being very, very tiring. And you're an asset to the company as well. So that's what I would say, is just take a deep breath and try to express yourself as honestly and as true to you as you can. And the intentions are always good. And it's easy when you're building something that you believe is so impactful, because it's about a greater mission. It's not about what I, Natalie, want. It's, we need to deliver on what the company needs by the end of this week.
Hey, Dan, with your background as a coach, I can think of 1,000 cliches as a coach, like give it 110% and get out there, give it all you got. But it's all about motivating people. So what are the lessons from your coaching background have you brought into how you motivate your employees and your team? Is it the collaborative approach? Is it humility? Is it positivity that you're leading them in a direction that they want to go? How do those skills translate from coach to CEO of Brooks?
Yeah, Matt, it's interesting. I'll back up a little bit and pull my family into this. We, during COVID, when you're home, you got a lot to do. And my family, I have two kids, an 18-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son. We went to work on what our family values were going to be. And we aligned as a family that, ultimately we want to be humble and kind. Every day we show up. And so my leadership approach has a bit of that in it. And I think, for people to connect with leaders, they have to get to know you. They have to know how you think. That motivates them to help you solve. And so for me, it starts with kind of a value set personally. And I have a sign here in my office that simply says, work hard and be nice to people. It's simple. It's a map for people to know that that's what's important to me. So first, it's getting to know your leaders. Secondly is clear communication. I've seen over time here at Brooks where we fall down is where we're not clearly articulating to our organization what we're trying to do. And we learned that during COVID. We stood up weekly town halls where we just simply took everyone through that week's job to survive and continue to work through the disruption. That seemed to motivate our organization and move people through disruptive process. Finally, are frameworks. I think frameworks motivate people because they can see how they plug into them. And so what we've always tried to do is in times of disruption or times where we need to get people moving, create a simple framework so they can see where they plug in and they can clearly do their work alongside the long-term vision and strategy of our company. And we've had a lot of success with that. Ultimately it's got to be simple. I think motivation is a big word. You got to boil it down to simple things that people can see themselves in the work and then understand what the leaders are trying to do long term. And that's one of the benefits of Brooks. Our ownership structure is one in which we can focus long term. We're not on a 13-week calendar. We're on a 30-year calendar. Wow. Because ultimately that's what Berkshire Hathaway wants from us. Build your brand over multiple years. And so I feel like I've got the greatest job in the industry because of that.
So you got your teams doing marathons then, not sprint, basically what we're looking at.
We use all of those running analogies.
Well played, Easy. Well played.
Shoein has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.